We're going to change the jets on this stove, outdoor stove. This is on a Lance 2075, and we're just going to get into it. We're going to pick up on this grate, slide it out. There's 2 screws. We're going to take the jet out of the one on the right and place it in the one on the left. But I just want to show you quickly how to access the jet so as to not strip out these screws. What we're going to do is just use a smaller Phillips screwdriver. Loosen these. They're slightly long-winded. This right here lifts off, but if you see those 2 brass pieces there, we want to separate those from the screws. The screws on top, the screw screws into that brass piece there, and we want to separate those 2, and I'll show you what that looks like. Now, I had to use a pair of pliers right there, or whatever wrench you want to use. You do not want to round those off or anything. And then use a screwdriver on the back side of that. The whole reason is you can see how that is falling out of position there. And we're going to put those brass pieces back in there to hold that in position. When you put those brass pieces in there, they should look like that. And when you're putting this back in there, if yours fell in there, make sure to get that back, these things back in these holes before you pull that up. Go ahead and tighten those down. Here's the top with the screws in it. And you'll see they just are laying in there, and they screw through this piece. And this will end up just laying over the top of that. You can see how that's going to align back on there. But you're going to lay that there, and there's the jet. And I'm using a 9/32 wrench here, tool. And again, if you don't have those brass pieces holding that in, this thing's going to get all unwieldy on it. But that's your jet right there. We'll get that out of there. I bought this off of Amazon. You can see it's a 0.83. That's what it was recommended on the Lance 2075 site, how to replace that. You can see it in there. But getting that started, there's no way my fingers are going to fit in there, so I'm going to use a pair of needle nose pliers very gently to get that started. Actually getting that lined up on there, it just pretty much went in. I'll just use that to get it started. Just tighten that down with a tool. We'll place this back in position. Place our top back on. Line those up. And what I always do is I don't like cross threading anything, so I always back up until you feel it. You'll feel it drop down in the slot. You'll just feel a very faint. Before I tighten all that down, I'm going to back up on this one. There it went. Did you hear that? Listen. There it went. And I can not have to worry so much about cross threading. This doesn't have to be terribly tight. We'll put the top on it and see what we got. Well, it's so bright out here you can't really see the flame. But it's definitely there. And I just want to tell you too that when you're hooking up this gas back here in the back, it is some kind of a pain to get that thing on there and off of there. And sometimes it'll go on, but it won't go on all the way, and you won't be able to turn the on and off lever to turn the gas on. And if it won't go all the way on, that means you're not all the way on the part on the stove. So you need to pull the collar back and press a little harder, and then you'll be able to open that all the way up. Anyway, if you want to change the small one, you're just going to do the same thing there. But this thing is putting out a considerable amount of heat. And like I say, you can't see it, but it's there. All right.
In times past, we've had to find alternative ways to finish cooking, as this took way too long. And I just put this on here, and it hadn't even been on there a minute, and this bacon is already frying. This took 5 minutes or less.